Hey everybody, how you doing? Today on the channel, I wanted to talk about space. Space is the place. And as guitar players, we so often forget about leaving space. So in that intro, I was trying to demonstrate the importance of leaving space, the importance of breathing while we play. These are things we're going to talk about today on the channel. I've heard two quotes recently from two famous musicians in two very different genres of music that really have inspired me and made me think a lot. The first was a concept brought forth by none other than the great Keith Richards. Keith said that when you're making music, silence is your canvas. Think about that for a second. Think about the weight of that statement. When you're making music, silence is your canvas. Oh, it's beautiful. We get lost in the noise. We get lost in the music we're making, and we don't think about how the listener can be impacted, or perhaps maybe they can have space to think if we just leave a little silence in the music we're creating. So wise words from Mr. Keith. And the other quote I heard was totally different genre of music. The great Pat Metheny, jazz guitar player. He said that when he plays a solo, he likes to take a breath at the beginning, pardon me, he likes to take a breath at the beginning of the solo so that he ends up going in the opposite direction to where he would naturally go. Again, there's a lot of weight there. Taking a breath at the beginning of a solo to take the music in the opposite direction to where you would naturally go. These are two really heavy statements, I think, and two things that are worth exploring. So let's talk about space being the canvas, first of all. As guitar players, we have a bit of a disadvantage. Like a singer has to take breaths between phrases, right? They have to hold a note and then take a breath, right? A horn player has to do the same thing. They play a note and take a breath. Lots of the rhythm section instruments, the keyboard, the guitars, the drums, the bass, we don't have to do this because we can just play. And you can have a conversation with someone, right? Like I can say, hey, how you doing today? How your kids doing? Oh, you went to the grocery store? What kind of cheese did you buy this week? Ooh, Camembert. I like Camembert. And we can just do that forever, right? We can just play and play and play and talk at the same time. Or just play and play and not think about what we're doing, right? Not think about leaving some gaps, okay? So what's the best way, in my opinion, that we can start to employ this as a guitar player? Well, the easiest thing to do is to take a breath in between phrases. And actually, on a fundamental level, just think about phrasing itself, right? Phrasing. When I played that intro thing, I started off with two-note groups. I went something like this. Wrong key. I went. Right? It's two notes. Be-da, ba-da. Be-da, right? That kind of thing. I was thinking of two-note groups, and then what I eventually got into was the idea of call and response. Playing a phrase and not being afraid to repeat it. You know, that's the other thing that's funny about guitar playing is that we learn these boxes, we learn these pentatonic scales, and we just think like, oh man, I gotta play all the notes available to me, and I gotta play these little patterns that I practiced. And then the problem is when we're on stage, we sound like we're practicing when we're actually playing live, and that's not cool at all. So, let's practice taking a breath. Let's take a breath. Let's take a breath in between our phrases, and let's actually think about phrasing, okay? Playing short lines at the beginning of a solo, not just spewing out everything we can play right away, okay? I'm going to make a funky loop, and we're going to play over top of that, and we're going to try to really think about phrasing and taking breath, okay? Here we go. Funky loop, solo, breath, breath. So far it's just two notes, right? That's too much. I'm going to rein it back. I'm just going to go back to two notes. Maybe a different two notes this time. Ah, now we're talking. Different two notes. I'm gonna go back, call and response. Ah, phrasing, right? Call and response. Breathing. Okay, so what we're doing is we're piquing the listener's curiosity, right? Now, like a good essay or a good speech, a solo has to develop. So we're gonna start playing some longer phrases right now. Call and response. Okay, now I'm going to mix it up. Short phrases, long phrases, breaths in between, okay? I like that. Back to our initial idea. Okay. Okay, you see what I'm saying here? I'm always thinking about this kind of stuff when I'm playing a guitar solo. Or at least on a good day, I'm thinking about this stuff. And I always like to think about where I started. And in a perfect world, if I'm really focused, I like to come back to it and reference it later on in the solo, right? So we're taking breaths. We're not playing too many notes. So that way, when we do want to actually play a busier phrase, it really counts. And the listener is like, oh, whoa, what's going on, right? You want the listener to say that. You want the listener to say, what is that? Whoa, oh, cool. You want to keep feeding the listener some juicy licks, some tasty stuff, right? That's the whole idea of really developing a solo. Now let's just take this in a different direction and let's explore the Pat Metheny concept for a second. Let's go for a more of a pop influenced kind of loop, and you could do this when you're playing along to a backing track as well. Let's go for a pop influence thing, and I'm going to purposely go in different directions than where my gut tells me to go. And that might mean going to a different area of the neck, things like that. Let's see where this takes us, okay? But again, still leaving some space. Kind of Fleetwood Mac, Chris Stapleton kind of vibe, right? A little Americana. Now I'm gonna just think about what I want to say, okay, to start. I like that. I'm gonna repeat it. Now my gut is telling me to stay in this area of the neck. I'm going to actually move elsewhere and see where that takes me. Okay, now I want to go somewhere else. Let's see. Okay, different area. Now I've ended up somewhere else, and maybe I'm going to play around with something that I wouldn't usually play around with here. Some bending, maybe a couple notes that might not fit in the key, but I'm going to try to make them work. Kind of living on the edge here. Some liberties now, but I'm going to repeat it. Because that makes it seem intentional, right? I'm going for some chords because my gut's telling me not to. I like that. Don't forget to breathe. I think that was my first phrase. I'm trying to remember it. And I'm going to go back down the neck again too, because again, my gut's saying to stay here. That's kind of cool. Okay, you get the idea, right? So we're living on the edge. We're trying not to play too many notes. And we're actually increasing our creativity by exploring different areas of the neck and going to some territories where we usually wouldn't go, right? So this is how we can remain creative as players, and also how we can remember that the listener really counts, right? We have to keep the listener in mind, and as much as we might think that they want to hear us kind of go, you know, like that works for a second, of course, and it's cool to be able to go there, but it's more important to leave space. All right, I hope you guys found this video valuable. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and we'll see everybody again next week on the show. Take care. Bye-bye.